In 1862, the fields of western Maryland played host to the bloodiest day in American military history, the Battle of Antietam. But in the community of Hagerstown, one institution honors more recent history: the Hagerstown Aviation Museum. The collection includes the fuselage of a historic 1919 Blanca CE, a 1943 Fairchild PT-19 that was used to train fighter pilots, and a T-6 Texan that saw action during World War II. But among these massive machines is one that dwarfs them all.
It's about 77 feet long and 8 feet tall. This particular artifact is shiny, it's silver, and there are rivets decorating it in a grid pattern.
This is a Fairchild C-82 packet heavy lift cargo plane, and it recalls a high-stakes military operation that played out in the midst of an epic storm.
This story reminds us that the human spirit is stronger than Mother Nature's wrath.
It's 1948. American ranchers are the backbone of the nation's food supply. From Nebraska to Nevada, they herd millions of cattle and sheep to feed the growing population.
These were the days of free ranching, free ranging. Livestock were out in the grasslands and able to survive.
But a sudden turn of events is about to push these western ranches to their limits. On December 2nd, a massive storm rolls in and blankets the West with snow. And as the days pass, the weather gets worse. Temperatures fall to 40 below zero, and one huge blizzard after another pummels the region.
Soon, the snowdrifts were taller than the tops of trucks, higher than the tops of houses.
With the roads covered in foot upon foot of snow, cars and trucks are rendered useless. The unprecedented snowfall cuts ranchers off from their livestock and leaves millions of sheep and cattle isolated without feed. And there's no way for the stranded animals to graze.
Every single farmer was having this same situation. Most of the livestock were nowhere close to any buildings for protection and were in danger of dying of starvation.
In an attempt to reach their precious livestock, some brave cattlemen venture out on foot. But the snow is too deep. If the ranchers can't bring their cows and sheep to safety, millions of animals will starve to death.
Many ranchers had their entire livelihoods on the line. This would be the biggest agricultural devastation that had ever happened in United States history.
So can these desperate ranchers and their animals be saved? It's 1949. A massive series of blizzards is pummeling the western United States. From Nebraska to Nevada, ranchers watch as hundreds of thousands of cattle and sheep face starvation, putting countless livelihoods in jeopardy. So how will these helpless animals be saved? As days turn into weeks, the situation grows increasingly desperate. Eventually, the military is brought in to help. And tasked with finding a way to rescue these animals is General Mark Clark.
Clark saw service in both World War I and World War II. He was watching the situation very carefully and heard a lot of calls for help.
With the region's roadways snowed in, the military struggles to come up with a solution. But the general has an idea that could save the ranchers' precious livestock. Clark will reach the animals by air.
The only way to be able to bring any help would be to fly over the weather.
Airlifts have been previously used to deliver supplies for military operations and humanitarian missions, most notably the Berlin Airlift of 1948 and 49. But this is the first time one would be used to help in a natural disaster.
Clark thought, well, if it worked in West Berlin, it might work in Nevada and in that region.
Clark commandeers 36 C-82 cargo planes, just like the one on display at the Hagerstown Aviation Museum. He then orders his men to fill the planes with hundreds of tons of hay and feed. On January 24th, the first round of flights takes off.
Did they put themselves in harm's way? Oh, you betcha. This was a very difficult operation. Nobody had ever attempted this before.
The pilots drop the hay near some trapped and hungry livestock, then fly back to base and load up again. With the first wave of flights successful, Clark orders more deliveries. The mission becomes known as Operation Haylift. Over 2 weeks, military pilots fly a staggering 270,000 miles.
More than 1,700 tons of hay were delivered. This was an operation that was as big as most operations in World War II.
On February 17th, the weather finally improves and a thaw sets in. In the end, the airlift kept millions of cattle and sheep from starving to death.
General Mark Clark was certainly relieved that Operation Haylift was a success.
Airlifts become the standard operating procedure for mass emergency relief all over the world.
Operation Haylift showed that the United States military could help. It set the stage for all operations that would happen in the future for natural disasters.
Today, the C-82 packet cargo plane on display at the Hagerstown Aviation Museum is a reminder of the unique mission that brought a lot of animals in from the cold.